Identifying how the public may join. Please note that this meeting is being recorded and that all attendees are participating by video conference. Accordingly, please be aware that other folks may be able to see you and to take care not to screen share your computer. Anything that you broadcast may be captured by the recording. All supporting materials have been provided. Members of this body are available on the town's website unless otherwise noted. The public is encouraged to follow along using the posted agenda. We are now turning to the first item on the agenda, but before we do so, permit me to cover some ground rules for effective and clear conduct of our business and to ensure accurate meeting minutes. I will introduce each speaker on the agenda. After they conclude, I will ask members if they have any questions or comments. Please hold until your name is called. Further, please remember to mute your phone or computer when you're not speaking. Please remember to speak clearly in a way that helps generate accurate minutes. That's it. And last, each vote taken in this meeting will be conducted by roll call vote. Thank you. So may I get a motion on the agenda?
So moved.
A second, please.
Second.
All in favor, Peter McEachern?
Aye.
Thank you. Jill? Joanna?
Aye.
Chris?
Aye.
George?
Aye.
Joe?
Aye.
Thank you. I'm so used to saying a Peter's name with a last name that's why Peter, but from today, you're the only Peter we have. I will now, Denise, aye. Agenda is approved. I'm now opening the floor to public comment and closing the floor to public comment. Thank you. We don't have any meeting minutes. Does anyone have a committee report they'd like to share? Nope. Okay. Racing through. Oh, Jill, sorry, I didn't see you.
Yeah, I should give a report because the CRC, as you know, was asked to look at another grant. We're given another grant through the marijuana dispensary tax. And so that was about $100,000. I think it's 97. Is that right, Brian?
But yes, that's correct.
So we talked about that. So that'll be another separate grant with different applications, but they've had 3 people apply.
Okay.
And so that's moving forward quickly. We're trying to have as many meetings and get that wrapped up quite quickly, but that was sort of a nice windfall through the marijuana tax and impact fee. So.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Jill.
So, Madam Chair, just to follow up what Jill said, we will hold off. We're going to put that in the Article 9 recommendation.
Okay.
So the funding source will be the raise and appropriate for the $650,000 and authorization for the stabilization fund once CRC makes that particular determination on that piece, which I believe, Jill, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think the expectation is the 24th or something of March is when that will be decided.
Yes.
Okay.
That was going to be, I think that's the end.
So after Dorothy's report next week, we'll hold off on the motion until that piece, the marijuana piece is done, and then we'll present the entire article for a motion at the same time.
Okay.
Yeah, I think I just want to make the point that, the people who are applying are really kind of the same people that applied for the other grants as well. So it just might be confusing at first for the committee, but not everybody got every dollar they wanted the first time around. So maybe this is a chance. But this is really more for substance abuse, specifically in mental health.
Thank you, Jill. Question for the committee. We did have, I agree with Chris's comment a couple meetings ago where the public hearing on articles such as the signs and the noise was in December, and yet we were trying to do motions on it just recently because we didn't do any motions at the same, in the early stages. So would it be better for us as a committee to wait until after the 24th to do this all together in one, or is because of the nature of it, we're pretty comfortable with it, we can leave it on the agenda and schedule as it is? Anyone have any thoughts on that?
So you want to, are we talking about tonight's meeting or are we talking about?
No, it's the CRC allocation. So you know how Dorothy comes and speaks to us every year.
Yeah.
So she's coming on the 16th. but they're not
Okay.
technically going to be all wrapped up in terms of being able to make a motion on the article until they do the allocation that's going to be finalized on the 24th.
Oh.
So we want to move Dorothy's report out to the 24th. So then that way we can make a motion at the same time, or is the 8 days in between not a big deal? And we can go ahead and do the, as planned on the 16th, and then we turn around and make the motion on the 24th with the article with the updated numbers.
I mean, personally, it's generally a non-controversial thing, so I would just push it out till after we've had all the numbers are finalized on the 24th.
I see nodding of heads, yes. So Brian, do you think that would be okay with Dorothy?
Sure. I don't think it'll matter. I shouldn't say it won't matter to her, but I don't think she'll be opposed to it. That's fine. I can let her know.
If she
I
can't,
mean,
if she can't make the, so that would actually be the 25th. She would come,
Yep.
wait a minute, hold on. Yeah, that'd be the 25th. She would come to us.
Okay.
That's the Thursday. So if she can't make that, then we'll leave it on the 16th and we'll just make the motion on the 25th.
The only thing that I might suggest to you, Madam Chair, is that I'm not sure that she'll have time from the 24th to the 25th to necessarily write a full-fledged report on the
Oh, no.
additional recommendation, but if you're okay with that,
Yeah.
and just listening to her, the rationale for the committee's recommendation for the numbers, then I think that would be acceptable.
Yeah, we don't need a report for the 25th. All we
Okay.
need is, let's just do all the numbers together.
Okay.
All the
fine.
grants together. Jill?
Sorry, one more thing I wanted to bring up, that there were some concerns about one of the grants that we were doing, which we didn't fund what they asked, it's a little less, but they wanted to make some comments. And it was regarding the food pantry. And this was all discussed yesterday. CPC's given the food pantry a lot of money, not actually for the food pantry program, but for the rental and fuel
Rental
assistance.
assistance, yeah, fuel assistance. Yeah.
And I'm just saying this, especially for Brian's benefit and Peter, I feel like it's important if they want to make comments about the food pantry, that things that the way they do things, or maybe some of their budgeting or whatever it is that they didn't like. I feel like it would be better if they looked at that with the CPC, so that it's the town saying that and not just one or two or three people on the CRC committee, if that makes sense. There are just some concerns about the food pantry. We're funding them and the CPC doubled their funding towards them. But with that, I would feel better as our FinCom rep that it was a town looking at it and not just the CRC, if that makes sense.
Thank you, Jill.
It's not an investigation, it's nothing like that. I don't mean it that way. It's things have changed. COVID's changed things. They've been inundated. There's a lot of anecdotal evidence about the way things are happening. And so that all came out yesterday.
Okay, thank you, Jill. Brian, we can take that offline.
That's fine.
Thank you. Okay. All right. Now, any other committee reports before I close that agenda item? And not seeing any more waving of hands, I am turning it over to item number 7. Brian, over to you, please.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair. So the first article to be discussed under agenda item number 7 is actually carried over from last year. It was Article 11. It was recommended with a positive motion by the FinCom. The dollar amount, it was put back through. Capcom did discuss it again this year. It was recommended out of Capcom at 1.2 million. It was a little bit slightly lower last year, so I think we would need to reopen it to do it again, to vote it for the 1.2 million. But it has not changed substantially other than a small increase in the cost based on estimates for the project. And it was favorably recommended by Capcom again this year.
Can I get a motion to reopen it, please?
I so move.
Thank you. George,
It
second.
was needed.
Did I get a second?
Second.
Thank you. So this motion is to reopen the motion so we can then deliberate and vote on the motion. So Peter McEachern,
Aye.
Joe,
Aye.
Joanna. Oh, sorry, Joanna. Chris,
Aye.
Joanna,
Aye.
Aye.
George.
Aye.
Aye. Okay. Any other questions or comments now that the motion's been reopened?
Brian, what's the difference? I mean, is it $10,000 or $200,000 from last year?
I
in
think
terms
it's,
of
It was like $1,135,000 last year, Rob.
yeah, so it's about $60,000 difference, Joe.
Okay, thanks.
If there's no further discussion, may I get a motion?
Motion to adopt.
Second.
Second.
Thank you. All in favor, Peter McEachern?
Aye.
Thank you. Joe,
Aye.
George,
Aye.
Joanna,
Aye.
Chris,
Aye.
Jill,
Aye.
Denise, I. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Madam Chair, the next article on the agenda is Article 12, which again is for the appropriation for the reconstruction of Lover's Lane. It was carried over from the 2020 annual town meeting. It is a Proposition 2.5 debt exclusion, so we do have a companion ballot article on the annual town election. This was favorably recommended again this year by Capcom. This amount has not changed. It's in the amount of $3,272,892. So I'm not sure that we need to do anything for this one because it was carried over, and I'm not sure that you're going to change the motion, but we did want to give that opportunity to discuss it, or if anybody any questions.
Thank you, Brian. Does anybody feel the need to reopen this motion, to rediscuss it, to re-motion it, or are we happy accepting our motion to adopt from last year? Everybody's thumbs up.
I have a question. Can I ask you a question,
Of
Madam
course.
Chair?
Of course.
Can I ask how this did at the ballot last year without reopening it, or would we need to reopen for me to ask that question?
I'd have to look. I don't remember, Chris. I think it might have been one that did not pass the ballot last year. I think if I recall correctly, the override for Island Home passed. The Children's Beach pump station passed, and there was one other, and I think it was the capital exclusions that passed. So I don't believe that this passed the ballot last year.
So my question would be whether there's any interest in reopening it based on whether any kind of comment or anything from the FinCom would be helpful in bridging the gap between a positive recommendation and a negative vote at the ballot. And maybe not. Maybe it's a waste of time, but that was the one thing that occurred to me as a possibility.
Thank you, Chris. I think it's a continual issue with things that get a favorable vote at town meeting, for example, and then end up losing at the ballot or not being passed at the ballot. So I think I don't know that a comment would get it over the finish line any differently than it's been in the past, just because of the way that in general that's how things run. So my preference is to leave it as is. However, if there's really a
Oh,
big
fair enough. I just didn't know the right procedural way to ask that. That's fine. Thank you.
Thank you, Chris. Back to you, Brian.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Article 13 was for the construction improvements to the Children's Beach Stormwater Pump Station. This was carried over from the article from 2020. It did pass at the ballot, but the board had indicated last year that they were not going to take up debt exclusions or capital exclusions or the override due to the pandemic. So we would ask that you reopen this because last year it was voted at $3.3 million. Capital Program Committee did recommend it out at 3.3 million. Subsequent to their recommendation, there's been revised estimates and with the DPW director talking to one of the firms that had preliminarily given him estimates, and the cost has risen to $4.3 million to do this project. So in order to move it forward, we would ask that the FinCom reopen it and reconsider it at the $4.3 million appropriation.
Move to reopen.
Thank you, Chris. I have a
Second.
second. Thank you. All in favor, Peter McEachern,
Aye.
Joe,
Aye.
Joanna, Jill,
Aye.
Chris,
Aye.
George,
Aye.
Denise, I. The motion is now reopened. And questions, comments, Jill,
Just one question, Brian. Is there any indication from any of the residents down there that has anyone been willing to maybe bridge the gap on that funding?
I don't know that anybody's talked to the residents about that difference at all. Not to my knowledge, they haven't, Jill. If
Okay.
somebody has, they've not brought it forward to me with an indication that residents may be interested in bridging that gap for for the town.
Peter?
Through you, Madam Chair. Jill, from my perspective, I happen to work, of course, in that neighborhood.
Yeah, I was hoping that your members might want to pay for that. I'm just kidding.
This is something that, having unfortunately, a little bit of history going back to 2008, we as a community did not solve a problem that we had back then with some design that was flawed. And we're still, in theory, paying for that by having a lot of water on the top of the land instead of going through pipes the way they should. This, as you remember, this is a pump that will adequately, more than what we've had, collect the water, pump the water out at a larger horsepower. I'll just use a very layperson's term. A lot more power to move the water that we need to move instead of the pump failing when there's too much water to move. So that really goes back to 2008, and it's a heck of a thing to look at. If you look at as-built, the as-built we as a town have do not even reflect what's underground. I'm being very careful. And I've been working the project from both the Capcom perspective and my job at the yacht club. And I do not look at this at all as an issue for a resident to be contributing to. They just happen to be living in a community that we are not adequately removing water that falls from the sky and or Mother Nature.
Thank you, Peter. Chris? And George,
I
I'll
guess-
get to you next.
I guess my instinct on this would be, is there time to send it back to the Capcom for review? But maybe absent that, if Peter could just sort of put just his Capcom only hat on and get us comfortable that the Capcom would look at the price increase and be able to justify it. Because I think typically we would rely on them to tell us why it's 25% more, 33% more.
So great question, Chris. It has passed Capcom numerous times. And what we're doing once again is increasing the size and the capacity of the pumps in keeping the, I'll call it the hard plumbed underground distribution system of collecting the water, then pushing it out through the bulkhead into the harbor. We got what we paid for last time. We undersized, it blew up the pump. It caused a lot of flooding. But now we are having to spend much more money because we are adequately engineering a project that started in 2008. I don't know.
But did I understand correctly that the Capcom sort of gave this a positive recommendation, but then the price has moved since that positive recommendation? Was that from a subsequent change in the spec, or is that just because stuff got more expensive in the last year?
Both. And Rick or Brian, I think both is a correct answer. The spec increased because of capacity limitations or the lack thereof prior, and therefore the price also increased.
It is a combination. It is a combination of both, and it's a combination of subsequent discussions that were had with an engineer that had looked at it for us, and they determined that the pricing most likely needed to increase based on those discussions. So it certainly, I do apologize to the Capcom that these discussions happened slightly after that everybody had approved everything. But the last thing that I would like to go forward to town meeting is with a project at $3.3 million that I know that I'm going to go and get a design for, get a bid for, and then not be able to award a contract because we're not going to have enough money and have to delay the project again after it was approved last year once, another year or two down the road. So certainly it's not something that we we like having to happen, and we strive to not have something like this happen. But it certainly is a combination of the scope of the project and prices increasing in that time frame.
So last quick follow-up. Would you say we dodged a bullet then by not getting it approved last year and putting in the old spec? I mean, should we look at this as a silver lining?
I would say we potentially dodged a bullet of not being able to complete the project and waiting a year to get a supplemental funding to move forward. Yes.
Okay, thank you.
And if I could add, just, sorry, Madam Chair, just as an aside or front and center, this has gone through 3 different DPW managers, and Rob has done a great job on taking the bull by the horns and making this happen.
Thank you, Peter. George, you had a question?
No, my question was answered by Peter and by Chris. Thanks.
Thank you, George. Okay, may I have a motion? Is there any further discussion? No? Okay, may I have a motion?
Motion to, go ahead.
Go ahead.
Yeah, motion to adopt at the current pricing that has been outlined.
Second,
At 4.3 million, thank you, okay. Roll call, Peter,
Aye.
Joe,
Aye.
George,
Aye.
Joanna,
Aye.
Chris,
Aye.
Jill,
aye.
Denise, aye. Motion is unanimous at 4.3 million. Thank you, Brian.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair. The next article for consideration is Article 18, which is an appropriation from the Waterways Fund. The detail was in the police stories for the budget. We're recommending $367,000 be appropriated from Waterways. We can use that for within the harbors for maintenance, dredging, cleaning, and improvements of the harbor. We can use it for the piers, the retaining walls, and we can use it for law enforcement or fire prevention in the county of Nantucket, which we don't use it for. We primarily use it for repairs, maintenance, and repairs to the town pier on an annual basis. There is approximately just right around $1 million that could be used for dredging or continued maintenance and work on the town pier. We're recommending $367,000, which is consistent with what has been recommended the last 2 years.
Thank you, Brian. Any questions? George?
Brian, does this appropriation have anything to do with Mattocket and the West End?
It could be used on the harbors. So we could certainly use some of it at the piers in Mattocket. I think there is a project that, had we had enough in the appropriation last year to do, we could have allocated some of this to. So it can be used in areas out in Mattocket, yes.
But that is not in the article as written. Correct?
The article is only written in accordance with the way that the statute reads, so that it can be used for maintenance, dredging, cleaning and improvement of harbors, inlet waters. Could use it on the Great Ponds too, as allowed by statute. Breakwaters, retaining walls, and piers. Typically, a lot of this, just because of the enormity of cost surrounding dredging, it has typically always been focused on maintenance of the town pier, because dredging is very expensive and would essentially, one dredging project would more than likely eliminate the entire waterways fund in and of itself during a project.
Right.
But it could be used to supplement those projects when they get undertaken.
I just didn't know if there'd been any interest from the electorate or any directors regarding the creek. So that's
I certainly think that the deputy police chief oversees work within the waterways fund and on the harbors and everything. And it is on his mind, and they have been working on a dredge plan for the harbors. So this money in the future could be used to supplement those costs for that plan once it's finalized.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you, George. Peter, you raised your hand?
Just to comment that this is a drop in the bucket. We could add a zero and still not have enough money to do the things that really should be done relevant to our waterways. That's it.
Thank you. Any further discussion? May I have a motion?
Motion to adopt.
Second.
By roll call, Peter,
Aye.
Joe,
Aye.
George,
Aye.
Joanna,
Aye.
Chris,
Aye.
Jill,
I,
Denise, I. Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Article 19, Madam Chair, is the Ambulance Reserve Fund. The presentation was part of the fire department stories that were presented. We're requesting an appropriation of $736,841 from the Ambulance Reserve Fund. The majority of that money, with the exception of $152,000, goes to fund 6 full-time EMT, potentially as soon as we are approved for ALS. There'll be ALS employees there, and including their benefits. The $152,000 is $50,000 to continue the upgrades to ALS of the town's ambulances, excuse me, as well as we purchase most of the medical supplies that go on all of the ambulances from the Ambulance Reserve Fund.
Questions? George?
Does this mean, Brian, that this amount of this appropriation would then become part of the fire department, whatever budget, in an ongoing fashion?
It's always been, it's not part of their general fund budget, George. It's a separate appropriation. Communities are allowed to create ambulance reserve funds when they do billings for ambulance services. So it's not part of their general fund budget, and all of the employees are charged directly against this fund. So it's a supplement to their budget because we have the ambulance service and we bill for the ambulance service on the island. So those salaries, the revenues brought in support the salaries. So we've chosen a limitation in the reserve fund of 6 employees. So the majority of the money spent in this is to pay for 6 employees in the fire department.
Understood. Thank you.
Thank you, George. Any other questions? Okay, may I have a motion?
Motion to
motion
adopt.
to-
Thank you.
second,
Thank you. Peter,
Aye.
Joe,
Aye.
George,
Aye.
Joanna,
Aye.
Chris,
Aye.
Jill,
I,
Denise, I. Motion passes unanimously. Okay, over to you, Brian.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Article 20, which is ferry embarkation fee, was originally also part of the police stories in their budget. It was originally recommended at $225,000, but we've continued to look at the revenue and the fund balance in this fund, and we are recommending $250,000. This comes from the fees on the tickets for the Highline or the steamship. As everybody knows, this is primarily used or exclusively used for CSOs in the downtown core district. Once this appropriation is exhausted, all of the cost of the CSO program is then anything above the 250 is absorbed within the police department budget itself. Given the fund balance of around 265 or 70,000 right now, we feel comfortable based on what we brought in last year and what we're projecting to bring in this year that we can reasonably support 250,000 for this program out of this fund without any concern about degrading the fund or not being able to perform the services in the future.
Thank you, Brian. Questions? Brian, I had a question. I don't know if you know this. When the chief did his presentation at the budget presentation, he was saying that they were not getting any or very few applicants for CSOs.
Mhm.
That he had like just 2 or 3 applications for 22. Those numbers I might have wrong, but
Mhm.
he was wildly short of the number he needed. Is there an update? Do you know if he's had any more success on this?
I know that we're still short. I think it's getting a little better. I know on a somewhat related topic for seasonal help, I know lifeguards is pretty well where they need to be, but I know that this is this has been more of a struggle with the CSOs this year, but I think that we are hoping that we'll get to the number that we need. But we're not quite there yet, which we typically have been pretty close to that number by this time in planning, but there's still a little time to go to get there.
Thank you. Any further discussion? May I have a motion?
Motion to approve.
Thank you, George. Second.
Second.
Thank you. Peter,
Aye.
Joe,
Aye.
Joanna,
Aye.
Jill,
Aye.
Chris,
Aye.
George,
Aye.
Denise, I passes unanimously. Okay, Brian, over to you. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Article 21 is the county assessment. As you'll recall, we did do a presentation to the Finance Committee, County Review Committee on the recommendation for the budget. The recommended assessment from the town is $174,455.
Motion to adopt.
Thank you.
Second.
Thank you. Any further discussion on the motion before I take a vote? I don't think so. Peter,
Aye.
Joe,
Aye.
George,
Aye.
Joanna,
Aye.
Chris,
Aye.
Jill.
Aye.
Denise, I. Thank you, Brian. Next one.
Article 22 is, we would ask for a motion to take no action on the article. Article 22 is what's known as finalizing the fiscal year 2022 county budget and would only ever need to be utilized if the select board in their roles as county commissioners and the FinCom in their roles as county review committee could not come to an agreement or approved budget and recommendation, given the fact that both have approved the county budget and the FinCom has recommended the county assessment. We would ask for a motion to move to take no action on this article because it is not necessary.
Thank you. May I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
And the motion is to take no action, just to be clear.
Thank you.
Peter,
Aye.
Joe,
Aye.
George,
Aye.
Joanna,
Aye.
Chris,
Aye.
Jill.
Aye.
Thank you. Over to you, Brian. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Article 26, which is the other post-employment benefits trust fund. As everyone will recall, at the June 25th meeting of last year, we delayed and did not raise and appropriate any money to be put into the OPEB trust fund. It was disclosed to the rating agencies as one of the options in a severe economic issue that we may face. So they were aware and they understood that our intention was, if at all possible, to begin those appropriations again with the fiscal 22 budget. The town manager and I are recommending that we raise and appropriate $500,000 to be appropriated and transferred into the OPEB trust fund for fiscal 22. So we would ask for a positive motion on Article 26.
Thank you. Questions? Joe?
Brian, what's the, I forget what you call it, the shortfall in terms of, what's in the fund versus what's actuarially required?
Many tens of millions of dollars, Joe. I believe somewhere in the neighborhood of about $90+ million.
That was the number that I somehow kind of remembered, but yeah.
We are, I will state though, we are doing better than very many communities in the Commonwealth by appropriating $500,000 annually into a fund. Many communities haven't even begun thinking about how to address it. And we've started by doing this, and the select board have already also adopted a policy that when the unfunded liability relative to pensions is done, which is about 17 years away, the expectation is that the policy that they adopted was that we would use that amount of reduction in the pension assessment and transfer and make that a transfer into the OPEB stabilization. So.
And that 90 odd is just the Nantucket.
Just the Nantucket portion.
Yeah,
Yes.
I mean, the other communities, it's other big numbers. So.
That's correct.
Jill, you raised your hand. Thank you, Joe. Jill?
No, I'm good. Thank you. He just answered that.
Okay, thank you. I see no further hands raised, so may I have a motion?
Motion to adopt.
Thank you.
Second.
Thank you. I'm going to ask Peter's cat to make the,
That's how he asks me to feed him. He doesn't bark yet.
my husband does the same thing, Peter. You know. Don't tell anyone. Oh, we're on TV,
I
sorry.
think we're recording that, Denise.
He'll never watch this. That's okay. So off the levity, back to the motion, and I thank you. Joe,
Aye.
George,
Aye.
Joanna,
Aye.
Chris,
Aye.
Jill.
Aye.
Denise, aye, passes unanimously. And the senior work-off program, Brian, over to
Thank
you.
you. Thank you, Madam Chair. Article 29. We did not utilize the senior work-off program during fiscal 21 due to the pandemic. We are hoping that we will be able to have this program in some form or fashion in fiscal 22. So we are recommending that we transfer $25,000 from overlay surplus into for this purpose. So we would ask for a favorable motion on Article 29 for the senior work-off program.
Any questions? Okay, may I have a motion? Oh, Peter, did you have a question?
Brian, could you remind me, what is the senior work-off program?
So the senior work-off program allows people, I believe it's over 65, to be able to work in various town departments. Cannot take away any work that's covered under a union collective bargaining agreement, but they are allowed to work up to, I think it's 200 hours in the year. It's paid at federal minimum wage of $7.50 an hour, but that money is then transferred to their tax as an offset to their tax bills. It can't be used, and it cannot be used to generate a refund on your tax bill. So it is a way for our seniors to be able to utilize some of their expertise and to provide help to the town and use that money as an offset to their taxes.
Great answer. Thank you.
Okay, do I have a motion?
So moved.
Thank you.
Second.
Thank you. Peter,
Aye.
Joe,
Aye.
Jill.
Aye.
George,
Aye.
Joanna,
Aye.
Chris,
Aye.
Denise, aye, passes unanimously. Okay. Thank you, everyone. So that's all our motions for today. And I will stick to our practice so far this year of let's discuss motions as they're scheduled. I don't think we need to bring up any other articles tonight unless someone on the call wants to talk about something else. Otherwise, we'll talk about them in due course as they're scheduled over the next 2.5 weeks. I don't see any hands waving, so oh, Peter?
Sorry. Denise, excuse me, Madam Chair, if I wanted to bring up something we've already brought up, would I wait until that is on a scheduled? So if I want to bring up an article that we voted on.
Yes, it'd be better if you could wait till when it's scheduled because we bundle them on purpose. So the one that we're not talking about, we'll be not talking about again with the other one that it's related to.
Thank you very much. Just a point of clarification. Thank you. I like the cryptic.
So yes, I think it's more productive, Peter, if we are able to talk about it
Agreed.
together with the other one that we haven't yet made a motion on.
Agreed.
So thank you. I can't remember when we scheduled that one. Rick probably knows, but if not, it's upcoming. Jill, you had a question?
I just wanted to know, and maybe Rick can answer through the chair if that's okay. When are we talking about the article on the Nobodier Fields construction? Is that like number 12 or 13? I just saw it and now I can't find it.
It's Article 10, and I'm not sure that we have agendas figured out through next week. I don't know that we've put the capital articles into an exact agenda, but my suspicion would be, based on the way that it's falling, that it would be the week of the 22nd through the 26th of March. Correct me if I'm wrong, Madam Chair.
No, I think so. We left those open. We left those as wide open as we could, with the exception of on the 23rd, we have all the housing articles.
Right.
So, but we tried to leave toward the end open, so then that way the numbers could be as final as they could be. I know we'll still have technical amendments because town meeting isn't until June, so fair enough. At the same time, we try to, do all the number ones, if you will, toward the end of the cycle of approvals. So, yeah. Okay. And with
Okay.
that, our next meeting is Monday, March 15th, 4 o'clock. We will be going through all the planning articles as we did last year. So Andrew Vorse and Leslie Snell will be there to present the planning board motions on their articles. And then we will review and discuss them and at that time, and as usual, make our motions, whether, as we support or disagree with the planning board. So. Okay, is there any other business? I see nobody waving excitedly at me, and it is 4:46, so. I
Not
think
even cocktail hour.
we're- Are you sure?
Oh, I don't know.
It's 5 o'clock somewhere.
It
5
is.
o'clock
Just
somewhere.
use your hand and touch the dial.
Christy, thank you for joining. Rick and Brian, as always, thank you for the excellent preparation. You make this process very easy for us, so thank you. And members of FinCom, thank you so much. And I wish you all a great weekend, and we'll see you on Monday.
Motion to adjourn?
Oh, yes, I always forget.
Second.
I like to leave it wide open, Peter, okay? By roll call. Peter,
Aye.
Jill,
Aye.
Joanna,
Aye.
Chris,
I see you Monday.
see you Monday. George,
Aye.
Joe,
Bye.
Denise, I. Thank you very much. Thanks for the reminder.
Thank you, everyone.
See everybody.
Bye.
Bye.